Hi everyone, live from my couch, where Jessica has to sleep for the next week since she lost to me. That will probably not happen. I'm going to go through the video quick today, have a sort of interview with Micah on the video, so that'll take some time. I don't want it to be a 2-hour video or else no one will watch it, so except for me. Alright, let's get into the trades. I traded Ben Tate and Ruben Randall for Torrey Smith, and that was with Rick. Neither team really got an advantage, but I wanted to open up a roster spot to pick up Kyle Rudolph, who I think will do well now that he's coming back from injury. Kirk traded Charles Sims, his 3rd round and his 7th round, for Frank Gore and Ryan Matthews, and that was with Micah. And big trade, Kirk traded Trey Mason, Russell Wilson, Denard Robinson, and Des Bryant to Cam for Andre Ellington and Drew Stanton, as well as Cam's 8th round pick next year. I think Cam got the advantage here. I think, I like that Kirk sold high on Denard because I don't think he's going to continue to do what he's been doing, unfortunately. But to essentially only get Andre Ellington out of the deal, you didn't need another quarterback, so you basically just got Andre Ellington. I don't know. I think you bought a little bit too high on that. But, as always, we'll see. Let's look at what went down Week 11. Myself against Jessica. Battle of the Couch. Jessica's team struggled. Peyton only got 17 instead of his normal 83 points per week. T.Y. Hilton only got 2. Sproul struggled. It was a tough outing for Jessica. I had a couple of good players. Demarius, Brandon Marshall, Cardinals defense, which is unfortunate because they were against the Lions. And C.J. Anderson, who I thought would do well, and it looks like he's going to continue to do well for a little while. Kirk against Tyler. Matt Stafford blew a big one, which was a bummer. Looks like Ahmad Bradshaw might have a broken ankle, so bummer for Sickinga. We'll see how everything goes, but Kirk gets a nice win with Andy Dalton getting 27 points, so that was pretty big. Dave against Rick. Great pickup for Rick getting Alfred Blue. I thought that was a great pick. Put up a good fight. Got 34 from Aaron Rodgers, but Dave got 23 from Andrew Luck, 16 from Forte, 14 from Crabtree, 29 from the Packers defense, 32 from Mike Evans. Bummer for Rick. He had the 2nd best score this week, but Dave gets the win. Cam against Tony, 26 from Jamal Charles, pretty much did Cam in. He didn't have DeMarco Murray this week to lean on. Didn't have Des Bryant or Denard, who he just traded for. Didn't have Andre Ellington since he got rid of him. Plus, Tony got a big game from Emmanuel Sanders, who he got from me, so Tony gets a win. Nate against Micah. Not really any great performers for either team. A lot of 12s, 15s. Micah ended up losing by 2, which is a bummer for Micah because had he put in Cam Newton, he would have won. Justin against Evan. Justin had a great game from Le'Veon Bell. He got like 204 yards. Good game from Jordy. Good game from Gronk. Evan had a good game from Josh McCown, but he was really the only one to even get double digits. So Justin gets the win and gets the blowout of the week. Boom. Let's see who the bonehead was this week. No one had any crazy bonehead moves, so I guess I'll have to go Micah. On the road, Matt Ryan is averaging only 16 points per game. So benching him this week would have given you the win. Let's see where I was right and where I was wrong. I said Kirk, Dave, Tony, Justin, Micah, and Jessica would all win, so I got the Micah and Jessica picks wrong. If we look to the standings now, Dave's atop the East with a 9-2 record. I'm close with 8-3. Micah with the loss is still at 7-4, but still first in the West due to the amount of overall points he's scored. So let's look at the playoff schedule now. If the playoffs were to start today, Dave would be playing Tony, I'd be playing Nate, Jessica would be playing Justin, and Micah would be playing Cam. And Kirk is still just 1 game back of the playoffs right now. So let's look at this week's matchups. Myself against Tyler. If I look at who Tyler's guys are faced up against, he's got some promising opportunities. His team looks good on paper, but I've said it before, until he gets another win, it's going to be tough to have confidence in him. He's lost 7 in a row, so I'm going to go with myself. Dave against Kirk. Kirk gets Tony Romo back, but Andy Dalton did well, so I don't even know if he's going to want to play him. Andre Ellington is against Seattle, and Dave has Andrew Luck against Jacksonville, Matt Forte against Tampa, Mike Evans against Chicago, and the list goes on for good matchups, so Dave gets the win. Cam against Rick. I like the moves Rick made last week, and it showed, 2nd best week. But Cam's got DeMarco Murray, Denard Robinson, and Des Bryant all coming back. He wasn't able to play him last week, so I'm giving Cam the win. Justin against Tony. Justin loses Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell to a bye, but he's got Drew Brees coming back. Tony gets Josh Gordon back, but I think it'll take him a few weeks to get acclimated. But if Tony can get another tight end, which, by the way, Tony, I have 3 if you need one, I'll give Tony the surprise win if he can do that. Nate against Evan. Nate's team is very banged up, but still, Evan has a couple guys that could go off. But Evan's lost 9 in a row, so I'll go with Nate this week. Again, I have a video kind of interview that we're going to have in this with Micah, so I'll just be real quick about this. At quarterback, I'm going with Jessica. At both running back spots, I'm going with Micah. At the wide receiver 1 spot, I'm going to go surprise T.Y. Hilton, so that's Jessica. Micah will get the wide receiver 2 spot with Jeremy Maclin. I think Jared Cook will actually do better at tight end, so I'm going to go with Jessica. I'll go with Jessica with Steven Jackson as well. Micah, I think the Chiefs' defense will do better. They did well against Seattle. And finally, I'll give Micah the kicker advantage. So I'm going to give Micah the win this week in that matchup. Okay, last week's question from Kirk. How many top 25 fantasy running backs this year went undrafted in our fantasy draft? The choices that he gave were 6, 8, 9, or 10. I said 9. He said the correct answer was 8, and they were Justin Forsett, Mark Ingram, Matt Asiata, Jeremy Hill, Denard Robinson, Ronnie Hillman, Niall Davis, and Brandon Oliver. This week's question comes from Rick, and he asks, what wide receiver has had the best fantasy points total in one season? Was it Torrey Holt, Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, or Marvin Harrison? It's a tough one. I'm going to go with Terrell Owens, though. He had a good quarterback in McNabb, and he was pretty much the only good receiver, whereas all those other receivers that were listed had a good counterpart, which means a lot of those passes could have gone to them. So I'm going to go with Terrell Owens. And the last thing that I want to talk to you guys about before I put on the Micah interview video thing, which was really fun to do, is regards our draft order for next year. So I'm going to put this up to the vote. It is on our ESPN Fantasy Football League homepage right now on ESPN.com. Currently, the standings break out teams 1 through 8 in the standings, essentially, are making the playoffs. And so whoever finishes first at the end of this season, it is regular season, they'll get the 12th draft pick next year. The person who finishes second gets the 11th, and so on. And that would be the person who finishes 12th this year will get the very first pick next year. What I'm proposing is something a little bit different, and I've talked to a couple of people, and they like this idea. Now, it doesn't affect me much for this year, but one thing that I don't like in sports in general is tanking. So the Philadelphia 76ers have been losers for the past 3 years, and it looks like this is going to be a 4th year that they're going to do it, and they're doing it just to collect draft picks. So what I'm proposing is everything is the same with those that make the playoffs. Teams 1 through 8 get draft picks 12 through 5. But what I'm proposing is that the person who finishes 9th overall, that is the person with the best record that doesn't make the playoffs, would get the first pick. Then the person who finishes 10th would get 2nd, 11th would get 3rd, and the person who finishes in dead last would get the 4th pick. So either way, if you don't make the playoffs, you're still getting a top 4 pick, but this prevents people from, if they know they're not going to make the playoffs, they don't just start tanking. It just isn't as fun that week. You know there's going to be essentially a bye week if you're playing that person. So that's what I'm proposing. Please go out and vote. I need all the votes, let's say by Thanksgiving, so I can put another video out that says that. But again, this would be just if I go through each one, whoever finishes first before playoffs start gets the 12th pick, 2nd gets 11th, 3rd gets 10th, 4th gets 9th, 5th gets 8th, 6th gets 7th, 7th gets 6th, 8th gets 5, 9th place gets first pick, 10th place gets 2nd, 11th gets 3rd, and 12th gets 4th. So let me know what you think. Please go on and vote. And as you guys know from the last one, if you don't vote, I will be texting you quite often until you do. So hopefully you enjoyed this. I'm going to put on a video with Micah. I'm not putting anything after this, so after the video with Micah is over, the video's over. Thanks, everybody. Let me know if you have any stat of the weeks, and or if you want to be a part of the video like Micah did this week. See ya.
The call is being recorded. Please disconnect if you don't want to be recorded.
Oh, Jesus. Micah, that could have been such a great introduction.
Damn it. Wait,
you know what? No, we're just going to run with it. We're going to run with it. It's starting now. All right, everyone. As promised, I have Micah Garcia, a.k.a. Teenage Mutant Ninja Bortles here as a guest, and we're going to go through multiple facets of our league. So let's get into it. Micah, can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Perfect. Okay. We'll start with the standings for our league. Micah, you have to play Jessica this week, myself in week 13, and you get to finish against Evan, which is nice. But you could finish at 8-6. Now, 2 divisions is obviously benefiting you this year because you're in second place, even though you don't have the second best record. But what are your thoughts on potentially doing 4 divisions, similar to the NFL, and there would be 3 people per division? It could add suspense and give more people an opportunity to make playoffs or be seeded higher without having just a good record. So if you had to choose, would you prefer to go to a 4-division league or a 0-division league where it's literally just the best 8 records no matter what division you're in?
Well, I kind of like the whole league thing to add a whole new opportunity to it. And, I mean, it's all the other normal fantasy football leagues have either just 1 division or 2 divisions. So why don't we try something different, mix it up, see if we like it. I mean, we can always switch it back if we don't like it. But for the most part, I feel like it would be an interesting and unique mix-up to fantasy football.
I agree, and I think the people next year that won't like it are going to be the 2 people or 3 people that get screwed and don't make playoffs simply because someone else in their division is doing well. But I think that would be anyone in that situation. So I'll ask you kind of an oddball question. Which owner in our league do you think has been the biggest surprise this year?
The biggest surprise?
Good or bad?
Well, I'd just say giving up on the season when you're only 1 game out of the playoff hunt, Rick. I'd say that's the biggest surprise right there. When you're so close to the playoffs, I mean, you don't just throw away your season.
Fair enough. And I got on Rick's case about that, but I will say, I mean, he's still within, 2 games or so, so he still has a shot. Well, it's a small one, but he still does have a shot, but, no, I'd agree with that. I was pretty surprised at Evan. He's lost 9 straight weeks, and last year I believe he came in second. I think the last 2 years he was either first or second both years, so I was pretty surprised by that. But I'd like to next get your thoughts on a draft strategy. So if we look at this year's draft, there were a lot of, quote-unquote risky picks. That's just us thinking these guys will perform well based on more playing time or based on a different team, etc. Now, some of the higher picks for these risky guys paid off, but you can see there are guys like Roddy White, Jeremy Maclin, Emmanuel Sanders, Fred Jackson, Steve Smith, guys that most years are good. In our draft, we're all drafted in the 6th round or later. Do you think it's better to take a guy who you have a hunch will do well with an early pick, or is it better to get the guy that, might not ever get you 20 points 1 week, but will consistently get you 10?
I think in a 12-man league, you definitely gotta go with early on those top guys, just because a lot of times you will be able to get someone late on, like these guys we mentioned. But in wide receivers, I think for sure. Okay, so, but like for instance,
we have this whole thing planned. I just want everyone who's watching this to know we have this whole thing planned. I put my phone on vibrate.
Oh, okay, so my phone was on vibrate, but it went to my laptop apparently.
Well, that's kind of creepy. But okay, as you were saying.
So, well, in a 12-person league, I think there's much fewer elite running backs out there than there are wide receivers. So early on, I feel like it's better to get those top-tier running backs you can count on, whereas you'll get a hit-or-miss receiver like Maclin, Roddy White. In the past, especially Maclin, he was super inconsistent, but now he steps in as the number 1 receiver, and he's done really well. So I feel like it's better to let these guys slide and try to get them a little bit later and get that for sure thing.
Okay.
That's
Now,
my strategy.
I have a draft analysis that uses different equations, etc. I'll put it out on Thanksgiving Day. I think that'd be nice to have. Everyone will be able to see that, so we'll see if your thoughts are kind of on par with what my equations say. But I also mentioned to you, and you haven't had the chance to see the rest of the video yet that we'll put out this week, but I'm looking to potentially change the draft order so that the person who finishes ninth, which is essentially the first person to not make the playoffs, just outside of the playoffs, gets the best spot. What are your thoughts on making the change to avoid tanking?
Yeah, I definitely would support this change because that way it gives everyone incentive to still finish out the season, not be like, oh, I'm out of the playoff race, I'm not going to check my lineup. And I mean, come the end of the season, there could be some important rankings or seedings come playoff time based on someone tanking. So, I mean, it's definitely a good incentive for those bottom teams just to keep them playing.
Okay, no, I'm right there with you. Also, I looked at your team and I was curious, who do you plan on keeping now that we have 2 keeper spots?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot. I think based on how Marshawn Lynch has been doing, I think he'll probably be one of my keepers. And then I made the trade for Gio, hoping to keep him, but Jeremy Hill's been doing so well. I see a lot of timeshare possibly going on there in the next year. So then again, I've got Randall Cobb and Jeremy Macklin, who both have been having very good seasons. So then maybe I keep one of those guys instead. Still two to be determined.
I'm a little surprised you're going with Marshawn Lynch only because, the Seattle Seahawks and Marshawn Lynch have both agreed that Marshawn Lynch is not going to be back next year. Neither of them like each other, essentially. So I'm interested to see where he goes. I'm sure that will have an effect on, whether or not you keep him. But, if he goes to a team that already has, 2 solid running backs or even 1 solid running back, especially if they're a different style of running back, more of a Reggie Bush type, there could be conflicting, playing time and position roles there. So that'll definitely have to play out in your favor, I think, for you to want to keep beast mode.
Well, I was definitely worried for this season when they showed that he was unhappy. So I thought his production might drop, but he's been doing just fine since then. So I think that was, no matter where he goes, I feel like he's one of those guys that just wants the ball and to run over someone. So I think he can have success for them. And Skittles.
And Skittles, yeah. The last thing that I really want to get your opinion on for this week is the Lions. You look at their next 6 games. They're against the Patriots, the Bears, Buccaneers, Vikings, the Bears again, and then the Packers. I personally like the Lions' chances, maybe losing to the Patriots and the Packers, and maybe one of those 2 games against the Bears. But, I think worst-case scenario, we're looking at 11-5, 12-4 Lions. What are your thoughts looking at the rest of their schedule?
Yep, so I took a look at that. I think worst case scenario for the Lions is a 10-6. But I think that they'll have 2 opportunities to get that 11th win in the last 2 weeks of the season at the Bears and at the Packers. They can get one of those, they'll be at 11 wins, and I think they're a playoff lock for sure.
I think eventually we have to win at Lambeau, don't we? One of these years it's got to happen.
Right, well, Aaron Rodgers has been on fire, and I'm sure it's going to be close for who wins the division at the end there. And I could just see him having a big game. So, but I think both the Packers and Lions will make it. You got the Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, and 49ers. They're all going to beat up on each other. So only one team will probably make it out of that. And then you got the Eagles and Giants, or the Eagles and the Cowboys will probably make it. Yep. So I think both the Lions and the Packers will go through.
Yeah, you're going to have one terrible NFC South team, so no big deal there. Last thing, I'll get your thoughts on what you wanted to discuss too. The last thing, I guess, that I wanted to sort of give you an opportunity. Are there anything you want to say to anybody in terms of, hey, I'm willing to trade this guy, come to me with a good offer, something like that? Because God knows I have the ability to do that every week, tell people who I am willing to quote unquote put on the trading block? Is there anyone, that you're either looking to get, a position you're looking to get, or someone that you might want to see what value they have if you're looking to get rid of them from your team?
Now, I have been shopping Julius Thomas around a little bit. I think I'm going to end up sticking with him and my team for the most part, unless I'm always going to be open to listen to someone like, hey, I want this guy. What do you want in return? So I'll always listen to that. But for the most part, I'm pretty content with my team. Especially once I get Gio back, I think I'm going to have some good options.
Okay. Boy, you sort of avoided some mishap with the Des Bryant, Ahmad Bradshaw trade, huh?
Oh, I sure did. I got lucky in that one, but maybe just my year. Let's go. Going for the win. It might not happen next year. We'll see.
So that's all the questions that I had for you. Do you have any questions for me or any topics that you wanted to cover, while I have you here?
No, I think wraps everything up. Good first interview.
Yeah. No, I would love to do this again. I enjoyed this. I've said before I wanted to have someone on this show, and Rick volunteered, but it's just so tough finding a schedule where you carve out all this time to have somebody come over. I think this is definitely easier. So for anybody out there that wants an opportunity to do the same, we were having issues recording with Skype, so download OOVOO. I've never even heard of it before, so Uvu, I guess we'll call it. Download that if you want a shot. Talk to me. We have 3 weeks left of the regular season. We'll get into playoffs. And the only other thing that I would say is that for the draft order, your order is determined prior to the playoffs starting. So if you lose in the first round of the playoffs and you think, oh, I better start tanking because that'll give me a better pick, it's going to go based on what the final standings were for the regular season. So that's all I have to say. Mike, I appreciate you coming on. This is a very cold day. I'm working from home, so I appreciate it. And yeah, I'm sure we'll have you on again, and look forward to talking with you soon.
Thank you. Hope you lose this week.
Yeah, I bet you do. See you, Micah.